especially when we have candy and he wants some.
Oh man, I could use some candy right now.
Yeah.
But we are live.
Oh, excellent.
Hey,
Did you know that?
no.
Oh yeah. Hey, hey,
Welcome.
we're back. This time, hopefully, we're still working. So Kevin, you don't know this, but the first two of these that we did, we pre-recorded them.
Okay.
And Cory and I are both professional podcast people. And we did not have the audio turned on. So we had a lovely conversation with Michelle
Yep.
from
Lorax.
Lorax, and then also Dan, not to be confused with Cory Connors, and Emma from
Green Impact.
Green Impact. We had this great conversation, and it only recorded the video.
Oh, ouch.
So we will redo those at another date. So stay tuned for more.
Yeah, so those will be live, but
we are live from Specright Summit.
Yes.
Here with Mr. Kevin Davis from Dermalogica. He is the packaging engineering director. He was here last year, and this is really cool to see the progression of what you were talking about last year as what you were going to do, and then to see you this year as one of the key speakers, and to see the success of the implementation of Specright into Dermalogica's system. It's like the perfect use case for this. It's working.
Yes.
And in so many ways. But welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about, obviously your presentation was fantastic. I loved it. I recorded the whole thing, by the way.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw my camera up there, but you asked Cory to do it, but guess who didn't step up?
Well,
Cory. Cory didn't step up, and I don't know if you remember, but you flipped me off, and so it's fine. It's fine, but I still took care of it.
Yeah.
No, it was phenomenal, and I thought the thing to me that stood out the most from your presentation was talking about the time where you were like, there was a task, I forget the exact task that it was you had to do, but you said it took 30 minutes, and it used to take 3 packaging engineers 4 days almost to pull all this information. And I'm like, okay, if I do 3 times 8, that's 24 times 3 is like, it's more than 10 hours. I won't do all the math, but it was a lot of time to then go from that to 30 minutes was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that ties in, there was information for the extended producer responsibility. So we have to go through every item we launched in 2022, and we got to break apart the bill of material.
Wow.
And take each one of those components, break it out by the material, the weight, another listing as well, and just each part of the BOM, and it's just tedious. Right. You got to go in a lot of that stuff. Well, now thanks Specker, we have weights for it. A lot of times you're literally weighing stuff because we didn't have the greatest of specs, admittedly. But it just gets tedious because it includes all our kits. So a kit, now you're breaking out the kit packaging and 3 or 4 finished goods, and it just grows exponentially. And now we've got it all in Specright. Literally 30 minutes to make a report, go in and create a report, hit a button, and we had the whole list. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It kind of just comes full circle, and you're like, this is exactly why we wanted this, right? To do this. Dramatic time.
Automation.
Yeah.
A lot of times people will criticize automation as being something that will eliminate jobs. Whereas I see it as something that does the mundane so that the people that are really smart can do other things that add more value to a company. So those engineers can be researching new products and new ideas rather than going after data that should be available at the touch of a button.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, why would we have engineers digging through BOMs and putting together Excel sheets when they can be looking at new, innovative, sustainable packaging that we could possibly launch, right? That's a way bigger value add than doing that. And absolutely, that automation isn't taking anything away from anybody. It's allowing them to actually do more and more value add. So,
and for the listeners who are maybe not as familiar with packaging, a BOM is not like a bomb. Like you don't have engineers like dissecting bombs, because that would be pretty value add. Like cut the red wire. It's bill of materials, right?
Really stressful days.
Yeah,
red or green.
Just like you're a packaging engineer, but you have to save the building from death. Can you step up?
Keanu Reeves every day.
Speed.
BOM, bill
Yes.
of material.
Bill of materials. Yeah, exactly.
BOM.
Yeah.
Exactly. I remember that, like, my mom listens to my podcast, and so, you know, so like I'll use these, you know, I'll use things that are like normative conversation in the packaging industry, and people are like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But no, that was something that stuck out to me. I actually left my notes over there, but when you were talking and I was jotting down notes, I was thinking, like, this is a way to accelerate innovation in a space that desperately needs accelerated innovation.
Mhm.
And how much time, even from my perspective as a manufacturer of packaging, how much time is spent on the back and forth of just even getting an estimate together, and then that estimate all gets pulled together, and there's back and forth on materials and quantities, and then it's like, oh well, now what if we added foil? It's like, oh my gosh. So then we got to go back through the whole thing, right? And that's just a lot of time and people hours that is spent on these things. Whereas I had somebody the other day who said, we want you to quote on all of our labels, and I was like, oh well, can you send over the material specs? And she was like, oh boy,
Right.
I don't know. I was hoping I could just send you a spreadsheet. And it was like, and then, so now, like, there's the cost savings potential that could have been there. Maybe it wasn't, but could have been there, right? Like, that's now out of the way. Or somebody whose job it was to make amazing things, as Matthew says,
Right.
now their job is spent just trying to pull together a bunch of disparate systems. And I'm sure you've lived that, right?
Yeah.
And for the last however many years.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, this is a night and day improvement from where we were. You know, it is what it is, and we've seen our suppliers be like, "Wow, this is great. You have a spec that is fully filled out, has all the details." We've been able to catch some errors because of it and avoid running the wrong thing or just having bad information in our system by having more details. And like, wait a minute, this isn't what we have in our system, and we're able to work it out proactively and get ahead of it. But in that instance, like you're talking about, we're not using it yet, but a cool feature on Specright is once you have all those specs in, so let's say that person says, I want you to quote our labels, you can literally go in, do an RFQ, click the items, like a checkbox of the ones you want, and send the specs to you to view. And that's as easy as that, which is
awesome,
mind-blowing, right? From the old days of filling out an Excel sheet with this much information.
And then those potential suppliers would fill in their data into your system.
Theoretically, yes.
Theoretically, eventually.
Yep.
And then it becomes totally traceable, and it's exciting.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. And it's neat just because I've used a lot of different systems, and almost every system, or all the systems, were they weren't packaging first, right? You know, it's Oracle that says, hey, we have a module that you can do packaging. It's, you know, JD that, hey, we have a module, you know, but they're ERP based.
Yeah.
But they're doing their best to accommodate the other business needs. Where this one is, hey, we do packaging specs and we do this other stuff too, right? Which is cool because it's you know, they honed in on this huge gap that was there, and have something that's truly focused on doing packaging specs, which I feel like it's in general, packaging is always people going, what is it? You know, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Where this, like, nobody ever, it's like, never got looked at seriously. Now somebody does it, and it's like this, you know, it's like, holy cow.
Right?
Finally. But yet it took to now for it to really happen. So it's kind of interesting.
It reminds me a little bit of remember the scene from Tommy Boy where Tommy sells 500,000 brake pads, and he says, like, they're made by the American working man for the American working man. He hands it to Dan Aykroyd. Yeah. I can just envision, like, Matthew Wright, like, it's made by packaging people for packaging people. Matthew just sold 500,000 subscriptions.
That's it. That's part 2. Tommy Boy part 2.
Oh, that would be
chicken wings for everybody.
I think that because there's not a whole lot of stuff that's made for packaging people, right? Like, we always feel like we kind of get the short end of the stick, and
we look at like R&D, and there's a plethora of systems you can get to formulate and keep the specs and things like that. You know, packaging over here, you know, it's not anything that's specifically made for that. So this is cool.
Yeah, what like EPR is forcing that issue. Do you
I
feel
think there's
like
a
that?
lot of things forcing it.
Yeah.
You know, you could look at EPR as a huge one. Absolutely.
Mhm.
You know, having to report data now annually, you know, twice a year. I don't know. I don't know what it'll land on. Is it quarterly? Is it, you know,
By state, by region.
well, yeah.
by,
And so then you're looking at,
Jeez.
you know, yeah. He was
County
showing the
owns,
graph
right?
today, right? I mean, California, Washington, New Jersey, others that have the law pending right now.
Mhm.
Then you have Germany, Australia, UK, and then
France,
so
yeah.
then beyond EPR, as we talked about, you have Italy, Spain, and France
Yep.
with their new labeling requirements that we have to manage. We got to have the right label in the bomb so that we can send that to the country so they know what label to put on it. And so all three labels are different.
Yeah.
And so we got to retain that information. And then a step farther, we're putting in the how to recycle, not how to recycle as in the actual how to recycle sticker, but consumer recycling advice, I guess you could say, for both US and Europe in there so that we can send those to the different regions and they can add it to their websites and things like that. So there's a lot of sustainability information that we're keeping tabs on now. And I mean, it's just the push. It's the progression that's happening that, you know, you have to get on board with.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really sit back anymore and
Not optional.
be like, we'll look at that in a few years. And, you know, it's like,
We should
no,
think about that. Yeah.
no, it's happening right now.
Do you both feel like the sort of the thing that ruled the day today was really, I felt like EPR was mentioned a lot. And
In
last
basically
year,
I think almost every single
presentation.
presentation.
And I don't remember it coming up much last year, right? I don't know. It was your first year last year. I think it was our first year as well last year in Austin.
Yep.
And I mean, it was talked about certainly, but like this was like, I think it's just the thing that everyone is on everyone's mind is extended producer responsibility and what's going to happen with these laws. Was there anything that you heard today that was like surprising or new information for you? I'm sure you're buried in it a lot.
I don't know if it was new information. I just thought it was interesting how many people are, as you said, focused on it or front of mind. And, you know, systems coming out to deal with it. Lorex.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lorex is an interesting one to hear. I'm very interested to hear about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Me too.
About what it can do. But it's really, I think the reason it's such on the forefront is exactly what we talked about earlier. You know, we were just looking at doing 2022 new launches, or which isn't a drastic amount in relative look at 860 SKUs that we have. So it takes somebody else, maybe they got 1,000, 2,000 SKUs. They've got to do that exercise by component, by, you know, listing out the material and the weight and everything for every product. So when you look at it from that standpoint, if they've never done that, and now you're saying, hey guys, we got to report on every finished good you have by component, think of the magnitude of work that's required to do that. So I think that's why so many companies are realizing we can't just tell Germany we're not going to report, right? You can't tell Australia we're not going to give you it, or the UK or Washington. It's just, you know, I mean, you can't do it. And so that's why people are like, how are we going to manage this?
Is there like
the first step is getting the information in a system that you can then report on, right?
Accurate. Right.
I mean, and even for us, you know, I mean, the curve was steep to get the information in. So it's not an easy task, but unlike having to do it every single year, this you do it once, and now you can report on it, and then you're doing it as you go. You're adding the information in on this new product launch or that new product launch, and it's in there, and then you just report, right? So, I mean, getting that work done up front saves all that work on the back end. So,
do you know, Kevin, are there, you know, if you go to the parking garage and you lose your ticket, they're like, you have a max, like to get out of the garage, you got to pay whatever, $125. So just don't lose your ticket. Is there like an EPR equivalent of that where it's like, if you don't report, they're like, you have to pay $10 million or something? I mean, or is it just, because I got to imagine they have some sort of mechanism that's for these companies who are like, we just can't get the data to you. We don't even know how to do this. Or I don't know.
No idea. That'd be an interesting question for the folks from Lorex.
Yeah,
because it's
a re-record it. Yeah, we can re-record it.
Can you go back and listen? Was it on there?
We can't hear anything.
I don't. You know, to be honest, I am not in the weeds on the EPR from a purely regulation standpoint.
Got it.
Other than like, hey, we've got to provide the data. But you would think that there's something there to hold companies accountable to do it. Otherwise,
Right.
they'll just be like, meh.
Yeah, whatever.
Right.
It's
It's a
like
huge-
if there's no
huge
penalty
Yeah.
or anything to hold them to it, I mean,
I would
what's the
think-
impetus to do it?
Right. That's
I would-
it.
I would
So,
think-
but I'm very interested to know the answer to that.
well, if
because
anyone
must be
knows it and
something.
you want to comment,
Yeah.
on
Let us know.
on the LinkedIn's, just drop a comment.
Well, and we're also going to be going to Paris here in a few days.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. Are you excited?
Yeah, why don't you guys
Official?
just talk about one?
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam.
He's got a little FOMO over there.
We'll call you.
I'm exiting from the conversation.
Yes, I'm excited. It should be neat. I've never been there for Paris Packaging Week. I hear it's a great show. And then obviously we have the award ceremony. So
Yes.
plug, we're finalists for a Paris Cosmetic and Design Award.
Congratulations.
So, which is thank you. It's very exciting to have our product, Dermalogica product up there in the luxury skincare, I think it is, or
Global awards. We're not even U.S. anymore. We're talking
Right.
about the whole world.
yeah. And I mean, to that point, another, we just won a World Star,
Yes.
which, I'll
Packaging
be
Europe.
honest, I've been in the
Yeah.
packaging industry for 22 years. I go to Pack Expo
Yeah.
almost every year. I see the Ameristars, and
Yeah.
which is cool. And so we won one of those. And little did I know that there's a World Star,
Yeah.
which is kind of the best of the best, like a Top Gun almost, if you will. And you have to win the equivalent of Ameristar in each country. So each country has their version of the Ameristar. And if you win that, you can then apply for a World Star.
Wow.
And so it's pretty cool to win one of those, to be, ranked in there.
This
It's
is
quite
huge.
an honor. So
Huge for
um,
Dermalogica
yeah.
and Unilever Prestige. I know Frederick Drew is very excited to be,
absolutely,
involved with that as well.
yeah. No, I think it's great for Dermalogica. We're obviously pushing some aggressive sustainability goals. And I think this ties into it nicely to showcase that what product efficacy and what we do is extremely important for the product line. Sustainability is something we're pushing, as equally as hard as any of that. And, something I think we can hang our hats on
Mhm.
for the business. We've always been known for really great products.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, hey, look they're doing super cool stuff in sustainability. It's a nice compliment to that. So it's exciting for the business.
I was impressed with the numbers that you reported about consumers and their buying habits.
Yeah, it is. It's a very interesting.
Huge percentages of people, and those percentages grow as people get younger, which we're hoping will change with a lot of our podcasting and a lot of our educating the older generations like us. But it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it was. And I threw my little card away, but it's 76%
Yeah.
as a blended average, right, of boomers and millennials and Gen X. And then as you went up, it was it started at 72%, I think, at boomers, and it went up to 86%.
Wow.
And kind of jokingly, even if people said that, responded because they felt like, hey, I should be doing this, and maybe it's not as much.
Right.
Even if you whittle that down to 60, 50%, that's still a massive number in the scheme of all cosmetic or skincare buying when you think about the magnitude of that. So I don't think it's not going to decrease.
Right.
It's not like you're going to see that number going down. There's so much. I think I mentioned it in the presentation, but consumers are so much more savvy, whether the internet or just the learning, the visibility to sustainability. I mean, people are understanding it better,
right,
and wanting that, and I think that's driving the industry as well. I kind of mentioned it's like the price of admission now. People expect it,
not optional.
Yeah. And if you don't have it, then you're almost questioned by your absence of like, oh, so what isn't on here? Because I think that greenwashing is being called out now, rightly so.
More, yeah.
And that's been great. And so if you're going to, if you want to have messaging that's going to resonate with younger buyers, you can't just have the messaging anymore. You can't just talk about it. You have to be about it, right? Like that. And that has been one of the most encouraging things to me, having been in packaging for a number of years. That shift happened. It wasn't quite overnight, but it felt like it happened pretty quickly.
I agree.
It was just like, whoa,
what, 5 years, 4
Yeah.
years?
Yeah.
it seems like it was kind of trucking along and then just hockey sticked, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like crazy.
Yep. Yeah, there was the COVID blip, I would say, where it was like, okay, I just need something.
Yeah.
You know, like the question was
What can I
like,
actually
is it
get?
available?
Yeah.
Can I get it? And that happened for, you know, a short period of time. And relatively speaking, it was a split second.
Right.
And we're just right back at it.
Very true.
You know, I mean, even more so now that we have like the EPR regulations that we were talking about that are coming up. There's a lot of stuff that's being forced, and I would say, and I think that Paul from Green Blue did a great job of kind of talking about like, this is probably good for your company because now it doesn't have to be as ambiguous. It's just like, this is what we're told to do, and so we're going to go do it. And a big part of that, like you talked about in your talk, was having the data in one place so that we can actually act on it rather than just becoming data miners for our entire job.
Right. And I think, you know, again, mentioned in mine, I told you I call it the three-headed monster, but you have the consumers, you have stores, and now you have regulatory. So it isn't just maybe one or the other, you know, or a combination of three kind of doing it. Like you have three active entities that are pushing companies, you know, and it's like grassroots and regulatory, and then the stores are in the middle compressing it. So you have Ulta and Sephora with their, you know, the clean beauty initiatives and things like that are pushing suppliers to, you know, not pushing, but, you know, saying, hey, if you want to qualify for this, here's our standards. Right. And they're coming out with, you know, more and more aggressive standards, rightly so. And then consumers, as you just said, it's expected. Right. So you got that on that side. And then, of course, all the governmental things that we just talked about. So you're getting it from all sides now, pushing it hard. So it just goes back to what we've been saying. It can't be ignored. You know, you can't stick your head in the sand anymore on it because there's just too much coming.
Yep, for sure. Well, that was all I had. I don't know. Did you have anything else to add from day one? That I thought, you know, John Blake did a great job as he did last year from Gartner, bringing some more data to the conversation. The Specright team has been unbelievable. I think they stepped up their game this year. And it's been neat to just see more and more people coming and being part of the ecosystem. That Specright has. I know you saw, you were like, oh, they've got some of these new features that they're rolling out with, and it's been really cool.
I think, you know, it's cool to see the new features. It's cool to see the not interactions, but the tie-ins from other companies like the Lorax, and like that seems to be growing too, pulling in these companies that are critical in the packaging industry to now tie into the system. That's pretty cool on being able to push the data out to these, and again, avoid extra work. I thought the presentations were great, and you know, having stood up there on the stage and looked out, it was pretty crazy to see 250 people here. I think last year there was around 100. You know, huge so there's a lot of people here and across all industries. It's wild. I mean, I don't know if there's an industry not represented here today from what I've seen. So
I haven't met anyone from the cannabis space yet, but I'm sure you did.
No.
Oh, okay. You're like,
prove me wrong there. I'm like, we got automotive and food and cosmetics and skincare and beauty. Like, I mean, there's people from all
But
aspects.
if you think about it, the cannabis industry, like that, you have not only EPR, but you also have state-by-state regulations for their industry. There's not even a governing body. Like you have to put a different label on. You're talking about for Italy and you know, France. Like they have to put different labels on for every state. So it's like cannabis people, like get on the Specright train. I mean, you got to be able to manage that somehow. Stuff. Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy.
Well, that's awesome.
What's the best way to get in touch with you?
You know, you can go to LinkedIn. Obviously, that's probably the easiest. And if there's any questions or anybody has anything, feel free to drop me a note. But otherwise, I'm excited to see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, just a few days. Crazy.
I know. It's gonna be here quick.
It's okay.
Au revoir.
It's fine. And on that note, see you guys later. People of packaging. No, I'm really excited for you guys. It's going to be awesome.
Be there next year, I feel.
I'll pray about it. All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.